We'll jump around because we have Senator Norwood is here and he has a bill that he sponsored. And that is the last bill, Senate Bill 2798. Let's call that one up. And Senator Norwood, I know you got to get to Senate Education, so you are recognized to explain the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Um, I guess this bill was inspired by so many cemeteries across the state that's unkept and for the various reasons. And I've talked to several supervisors as well as funeral homes that formerly have buried some folks there. And you have basically the general public is going around doing something, but this is just trying to put a mechanism in place, whereas that supervisors would assume the responsibility for that, and they could use their funds, or they can use excess funds from other sources to basically clean up and maintain those those cemeteries.
Any questions? Senators? Senator?
Chairman, you know what, I've preached through that. I just want to make sure that I'm reading this right. You're only requiring or saying that they shall do that on already public owned cemeteries, and it's not a shall on the private, it's just they may.
Right.
Thank you.
And it's like I said, it's not a whole lot from what I've through my research, but those that are unkept they are in bad shape. And I think in this area, I know we have about 6 or 7, I believe it is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When can we change that on line 8 shall to may? Because I haven't been able to talk to my supervisor as far, they might not have the same thought as all the supervisors. At present, and in a municipality area, but they already have the authority to keep up delinquent cemeteries.
I don't have a problem with May, and I mean, and if it seems as though it's working, maybe come back at some point and make adjustment in there. But I just think I think we need to start somewhere, if you will.
All right, so that's Senator Seymour's motion to change the shall to may on line 8. Yep. Any questions on the amendment? Move adoption of the amendment.
To adopt.
Okay, senators, he moved adoption of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Now we're on the bill. Do I hear a motion? Kind of sufficient? Okay. I'm sorry.
As amended.
Senator Turner Forward.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just getting here, so I apologize for being late. My question is, do the supervisors have the authority to enforce that the cemeteries be cleaned, even if they don't have to do it?
That's a great question. I think if it's public,
I would imagine that anyone probably complain about the condition of the cemetery, and I think there's a process where the adjoining landowners can complain, but maybe if we could add to this, giving them the authority to enforce that the cemeteries be clean, in addition to what is here.
And
that would be my amendment if I'm recognized to offer.
yeah, and you are recognized to offer that amendment, and that's Senator Turner Ford's amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Okay.
And this is basically a mechanism that would allow them, if they desire to use public dollars to deal with it, if they choose to. Yep.
Senator Turner Ford.
I don't know the code section that this applies to generally with other properties, but if with some research, perhaps incorporate that language into this code section that, if there's a complaint, they find it to be a public nuisance, it will give them the authority to clean, charge it back to the cemetery and, a collection process.
Senators, any other questions on the amendment? Senator Turner Ford moves adoption of the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment signify by saying aye. All right, any opposed? That will be incorporated into the bill. Now title sufficient do pass as amended. Committee sub, all those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported. Next, let's call up the first bill, Senate Bill 2002. It is Senator Kirby's bill, but I have Attorney John Milner here. Could you come forward, Attorney Milner, and explain? This is the exact same bill we passed out of committee last year.
Certainly, this bill was brought up, okay.
That microphone's on, Attorney Milner. Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. This bill was brought up last year and was reported out. The changes that have occurred, basically the general thrust of the bill is to save the county money rather than appointing, having the only option of, other than the entire board hearing a dispute over solid waste fees or other solid waste issues. What we're trying to do is to save money so that the $12,000, I think, is the general estimate of the cost of hiring an outside hearing officer. This would allow us to have no cost by using an employee of the county. And this bill passed last year. It included the county attorney, and at that point, we met with the House. It passed unanimously here out of this committee and also by the Senate. There were issues regarding the county attorney being included as one who could be that hearing officer. And so we met with the House leadership over the summer and fall and worked that out so that the county attorney would be excluded. And also we added exclusion for any employee of the tax collector. But other than that, it follows exactly the language of the school board, how it's handled with school boards and other organizations, exactly the language. We're trying to be consistent, is the other piece, with other statutory schemes for how they deal with hearing officers. And it passed unanimously in a companion bill 937 in the House. And we would very much appreciate the opportunity for this committee to pass the exact same version that has been worked out. So that's kind of the summary of the bill, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions of Attorney Milner? All right, Senator Turner Ford.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is there a provision that allows the board to hear an appeal of the hearing officer's decision in this?
The board can always hear, the full board can always hear an appeal, and it will ultimately, the decision of the hearing officer is a recommendation to the board, so they get the final decision. It's not a substitute for the authority of the board, never has been. And so to answer your question, yes, the board would ultimately make that determination, but it would just be on the recommendation because they have such a, heavy schedule. They can't hear all the things that they would otherwise like to hear.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions, senators? All right, Senator Dean Kirby. That's the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported. The next bill, let's call it Senate Bill 2021. This is a bill that we passed out of committee last year, and this is to shorten the days required for posting a special call meeting of the Board of Supervisors. It reduces that time from 5 days to 3 days. That's all the bill does on lines 14 and 15. Any questions? Senator Turner Ford. Okay, you don't? Okay. Senator Seymour.
What guidelines for a necessity to call a special meeting? Have there been any set?
No guideline. If they just have an emergency issue that they need the board to address. Do we have a motion? All right, Senator Turner Ford. That's okay.
So how it says here that the notice must be advertised at the courthouse, published in the newspaper. Could we possibly add by electronic means? Since we now have that.
Yes, that's fine.
That would be I move to make that.
Okay, so Senator Turner Ford is adding that we maintain the way that is already in the statute to notice the meeting, but also add by electronic means as an option in addition to. Okay, all right. All right. That's Senator Turner Ford's amendment. Any questions on the amendment? Do we have a motion, Senator Turner Ford, to adopt the amendment?
Adoption of the amendment.
Senator Turner Ford moves adoption of the amendment. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That amendment has been adopted. Now on the bill.
Adoption committee.
Yep. We moved adoption of the committee sub. That's the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported.
Oh,
Title sufficient, do pass, committee sub. Yep. All those in favor signify by saying aye. All right, any opposed? The third bill, Senate Bill 2450, the county law library. And this is Senator DeBar's bill. And the language starts on 105 and it's basically option. It's permissive language, it's not mandatory language. And it says funds collected under this section that are not needed for purposes related to the law library may be used for electronic and technology purposes for any chancery and or circuit courtroom in the county, including but not limited to installing, repairing, and or improving audio systems, video systems, digital communications, recording, or court proceedings, evidence display, assisted learning, and technology infrastructure. That's the language added to the statute. Any questions? Do I hear a motion title sufficient to pass? That's the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported. Our final bill is Senate Bill 2661, Child Protective Services. And as I understand it, the counties are already doing this, providing adequate and habitable office space for the Child Protective Services Agency. And so the Mississippi Association of Supervisors are not opposed to this bill. And CPS did request this bill, so I sponsored it for them. Any questions? We hear a motion title sufficient to pass? All right, that's the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? That bill will be reported. Thank you all. Thank you.